the work?
Oh, God, yeah.
What's shaking? Welcome back to All In. I'm your host, Rick Jordan. You're going to want to share this episode out, and I'm going to ask you to right now, to everyone who's listening, at least 3 people, because this is going to be so important today for everyone to hear, and you're probably going to pick out about 10 people in your head that's like, oh, I know somebody who's going through that. I know somebody who's going through that right now. They need to wake up. They need to wake up. Because my guest today was a college dropout and a single mom who went back to law school, then rose to becoming one of the top divorce attorneys in the country. And now she helps negotiate with narcissists through her online programs, help people negotiate with narcissists, their narcissist partners, whatever, through the programs and the YouTube channel and her podcast. This is episode number 2. Welcome back, Rebecca Zung.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I always love spending time with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We've done a lot of fun things back and forth over the past couple months. I've been on your live, for cybersecurity related to divorce and relationships.
You are a favorite of my audience and my community.
Thank you.
Love you. Yes.
That's awesome. There's been a lot of people that have reached out over that too, that I've just tried to help them through a lot of things, because it's, I love giving the advice, as I'm sure you do too. A lot of my services are B2B. It's not really like to an individual. So when those came in, like we were talking, with your show, when you were on the Ed Milet show a little bit ago, it was hundreds of messages from doing the live, just trying to help people out, even to where it was just interesting. And this will lead in good to our conversation too. Like one scenario, what was this person had influence and the ability to do things like wiretaps on phones, or certain recordings in the house. And it was like, how do I get away from this? So it's, even like on the mobile phone, on a cell phone, it's like, well, first, get away from an Android or and go to an iPhone, because it's more difficult to do that. Second, you're going to have to communicate through something like Signal to have completely private communications. But my point in this is that this stuff happens. And this is how the people that you help, the types of individuals that they're in a relationship with think. And it's sick.
So much so. I mean, and not just in personal relationships, business relationships too.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they operate in their romantic relationships is how they operate in their business relationships as well.
It's so intriguing on how that carries over and crosses over in that aspect too.
Totally. I mean, they're the same. I mean, they're very paranoid people. So they act the same regardless of whatever relationships they're in. They don't trust people. So that's how they are. I mean, they're very controlling. And extremely toxic to be around. They're really scarcity mentality to the extreme. And the way I like to look at it is like, they're almost like people who are like, as if, if you're like a person who's starving or you're, massive survival mode at all times, you're not going to want to give anything to anybody else, because you just feel like if you give to anyone else, then you're not going to have. And that's kind of how they walk around at all times.
Wow. That's for everyone listening, we're talking about narcissists, or those qualities, those character traits. And coming from, we talked a little last time about my experience, even with in the church realm, because there's a lot of pastors that are this way. It's that type of position that's prone to that, similar to politicians. But then I had a scenario with a business partner in the past too that was like this. But
me too.
Yeah, relationship wise though, because that really hits home for a lot of people. And is there a way? Because being part of the conversations that we've had, and I'm active in your group too, I see a lot of the scenarios that pop up, and they're asking, what do I do with this? And I'll see even a lot of text messages, like screenshots of text messages that will come up when it comes to dealing with the kids. And some of the messages are just so out of this world from these individuals, almost like they're disassociated from reality.
Yeah. So, I think, they're always trying to get their narcissistic supply. So whether they're sending text messages, whether they're sending, they're just speaking to you, whatever it is, they're always trying to get that narcissistic supply. They're constantly trying to trigger and goad people into, an emotional response, regardless of whether it's a romantic relationship or a business relationship. So, and the reason why they do that is actually several layers deep, by the way, because by triggering you and goading you, it number one, they're testing you to see if they have control over you, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a way of seeing, is this person a good form of supply for me? Are they a good target? Are they a good victim? So that's number one. Number two is they actually just get off on it. They think it's funny, or, they actually enjoy watching people squirm, intimidating them and controlling them. Number three is when they get those responses, a lot of times they can use those responses against you down the road, whether it's in a court or if it's for work or whatever, anything you write becomes something that can be used against you at some point.
Wow.
So there's many different layers to why they're trying to trigger you.
So if I'm hearing you, the first one is they're trying to poke you, whether it be embarrass you, just get a rise out of you, just to push your limits and find out where your threshold is so that they can gauge how much control they can have over you to see if they're a good match to feed themselves. Is that accurate?
Yeah, early on, they're conditioning you because they want to see if you're going to be a good source for them, as far as a good source of supply, a good target for them. And then you allow yourself to be conditioned to a certain extent, and you don't even realize it's happening. You're over there thinking, well, I don't want to rock the boat, or sometimes I think early on, at least for me, when things were happening early on with the business relationship I was in, I was like kind of confused to like, well, what's going on here? Maybe I'm reading too much into this. There's other signs that point to the fact that this person is actually very nice, that maybe they are a person of integrity. So maybe I'm misreading things. You start to question your own mind. And so you do let things go. And all of that is like kind of the process of conditioning you early on in the relationship. And so they start to see, they're testing you to see if you're going to, how much they can get away with early on.
So interesting, because it almost sounds like when you're in that state, because yours was with a business partner from what you're explaining, and it almost seems as though they can kind of convince you that it could be, because you're thinking like maybe this person is a person of integrity. It's almost like they're trying to get you to doubt yourself and your own instincts. Is that accurate?
Oh, 100% they're trying to get you to doubt yourself, because they'll say things to you like, I am a person of integrity. Nobody is more honest than me. They'll actually say that to you right to your face. And they'll even do things that make it seem like they're super honest early on in the relationship, that make it seem like they are. And so when they start doing things that don't seem to, where it doesn't harmonize with what you know to be true or whatever, it gets very confusing. And then they start to do things that are really passive aggressive. And then they start to gaslight you, where you actually aren't, believing what you're seeing or what they're saying isn't harmonizing with what you're what you know to be true, and then that's when you start to think you're going crazy, and they want you to think you're crazy.
Yeah, then you're in a position to where you're controllable, and that's
100%.
Yeah.
Which is what they want, because that's when when you start to think that you're going crazy, that's when it weakens you and destabilizes you, and that's when they have a lot more control over you.
Can you give me an example, or just maybe elaborate, unpack it a little bit? When you think you're going crazy, what does that look like? How do you show up in those moments?
Well, I mean, it'll be something like, over time, it'll happen many times. But for example, it doesn't seem like much when I give one or two examples, but when it happens a lot over time, it seems like a lot. I mean, it becomes a lot. So for example, it might be, I'm going away with the guys this weekend. Oh, you're going away this weekend? This weekend is our anniversary. Why would you go away this weekend? It's our anniversary. Oh, we talked about this. You agreed. We never talked about this. Oh, yeah, we had a whole conversation about it and you agreed. We never had a conversation about that. Oh, yeah, we totally did. You don't remember? And they say it like so sure, like we absolutely had a conversation about this and you absolutely agreed. And you're like, we never had a conversation about this. And then it happens like that over and over and over again. That is gaslighting.
Yeah. Making you question your own reality.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. You're amazing at helping people, at bringing awareness to this. And then with your programs, you also help people get out of this too. What's that first step? Because, there's got to be moments to where I would think to where you start to realize that, oh, this is a toxic relationship and this person is not a good person. Or maybe they're... I think
that's actually the first step. I mean, I think the first step really is starting to realize, wait a minute, this person is a narcissist, and just, starting to watch videos like mine or other people have out there and realizing the signs of what a narcissist is, and starting, that's one of the beautiful things about PTSD from narcissism, is that people, once they start to realize the type of relationship that they're in, they can actually heal much faster, because they start to realize, oh my God, I'm actually not crazy. This actually is a thing, and it's actually called gaslighting, and there's a name for this, and this is it's called narcissism, and it's called narcissistic supply, and there's names for all of these things that have been happening to me, and there actually is a term for energy vampire. Like, that's why I feel like the life has been drained out of me. Like, there's a thing that's actually called that. I mean, and that's actually the first step, because when you can start putting some space between the stuff that's been happening to you and you, and actually observing it almost as a third party, it actually is the first step to healing. And then you can go into, okay, now what do I do? But that's really the first step.
Yeah. And then from there on, I would hope that you could start to formulate an action plan. But it seems like a lot of this, from what I'm hearing, you can take time too. Is that correct? To where you're in this mode to where it's almost like in a state of disbelief, because if you get into business with somebody who's this way, it probably takes time, and you're like almost like tallying up things over the course of time to be like, is there this clicking moment, like a tipping point after a certain period of time? And what do you see typically with your clients to where it's like that light bulb goes off and it's like, wow, I am coupled, business or remote romantic relationship with a narcissist? Where's that tipping point?
Well, I think, for me, I didn't even realize that the person that I was in relationship with was a covert narcissist until I was actually already out of the relationship.
Oh, wow.
I just knew that I needed to be out of the relationship. I just knew that this was not serving me anymore. And those people who follow me on a regular basis know that I had this moment where I was in Maui, couple of years ago now, and I was at the top of the mountain in Haleakala. If anybody's ever gone there, you should totally, if you ever go to Maui, you need to get up at sunrise and you need to go do this thing. It's definitely on your bucket list. And yes, you have to get up at 2:30 in the morning, and it's and I'm not a morning person either, but you definitely need to do it. You get up and you go, and it's 90 degrees down at the bottom of the mountain. It's 30 degrees up at the top, and you have your blankets and everything. And it's unbelievable, this experience up there, the view, it's just like heaven on earth. Unbelievable. So I'm up there, and it's gorgeous, and it's heaven, and you can't describe how beautiful.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, and I'm looking, and I'm with my family and my daughter and my husband, and it's stunning, and it's heaven. And what am I thinking about? I had this thought about this narcissistic business partner came creeping in, and all of a sudden it hit me, and I thought, no. You don't get to be here. You do not get to be here with me in this moment. And it's I just had this moment of no, you don't get to be here. And I just realized in that moment, I have a choice. And I just decided in that moment that if I am thinking about that or her or that situation or what's going on with that, then I am not in creation mode. You can't be in both at once. And I just made a decision at that time that I was going to create a plan to get out of that situation. It was a very tiny little thing anyway. It wasn't even making any money, but it was enough to make my life crazy. And I was
sounds like my scenario.
Yeah. And I was just decided I was going to write my second book, which ended up becoming Negotiate Like You Matter. And I made a plan for that. And I made a plan to get out of that situation, that business situation. And I just came down from that mountain, and I was like, this is it. I'm creating a plan for my life, and I'm going to remain in creation mode. I'm creating a plan to get out of this. I'm only going to think about that when I have to think about that. And every other moment I'm dedicating to creation mode, using my gifts from God to help other people. And that's what I'm doing. And from there, I wrote Negotiate Like You Matter. Robert Shapiro ended up coming forward and offering to write the foreword for the book. And from there, all of these other things have flowed that I've ended up doing in my life. And I can't say I easily got out of that relationship. It was, it's never easy to get out of a relationship with a narcissist, but I did end up getting out of that relationship. And I just remained focused on, you can't be in both places at once. You're either in victim mode or creation mode. You can't be in both. Yeah. So I just made that decision at the top of that mountain, and I really try to stay focused ever since then.
Wow. Was getting out of it worth the work?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. That was so miserable. It was the most horrific. This is the thing. When I speak about negotiating with narcissists on my YouTube videos and, on these, interviews or whatever, people can feel my authenticity. I know from where I speak. I've lived it. I know it. And I can say to people, listen, I'm a lawyer. I certainly, nobody's fool in a lot of ways, but it could happen to me. It could happen to anybody.
Wow. As I'm sitting there, I'm picking out a couple of very powerful moments of your story. You're in this just very beautiful space. And while you're in this amazing place with people that you love, right? With people that are providing beauty into your life, this person creeps back in this moment. And that sounds like it was like your tipping point, of course, as you're explaining, to where you realize it's like, even when the individual is not around, there's still an energy vampire.
Yes.
They don't even have to be in proximity of you, but because of all the emotions and everything that they've created through the course of time, and these little nitpicky things and the pokes and the controlling aspects of them, that it's like those things are almost like it's like an autonomous firing mechanism that's within you now at this point, to where even when you're having the time of your life, they still show up, even though they don't show up. That's powerful.
Right. And throughout most of my life and in my day, I probably didn't notice it as much because, like, okay, if I'm going about my day, fine. But in that moment, it was like, oh no, you don't get to be here.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. Your story is actually beautiful, because it was even though it was rough in that moment, I'm sure, and all the work following that, if we can unpack that a little bit too, all the work following that was probably pretty horrendous. But still, it was the moment to where it's beautiful. It's like there was a recognition of what was going on. And it's like the start of the creation of something new, which is an amazing time in your life. It's like, there's going to be a lot of work to get to where I need to be, but I love you saying that, yeah, oh God, yeah, it was worth it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So if we can take I know yours was a business partner, but what were the reasons why it was so rough trying to get out of that relationship?
Well, because I was a big form of supply for her. I try not to give too many details, because I don't ever want, like, this person to come back to, like, haunt me. But, I had, so let me just say, narcissists never attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They always attach themselves to you because you have so much. And so they always find people who can give them more than what they have, right? Yeah. So they find people who have, better whatever, especially in business or whatever. They have more
better talents,
more talent, better, they're further along in the continuum in whatever way. And then they figure that they'll attach themselves. They present themselves in such a way that it makes it seem like they're equals, or that they have other things to offer. And then they rush the relationship so that that you're in to, very quickly. I mean, it's the same way that they are in a romantic relationship too. In romantic relationships, they want to get married right away. They want to move in right away. In business relationships, it's the same way. They want a partner immediately. They want to, it's the same. I don't know if you've ever heard the story of the camel nose under the tent, but there's this story of, like, the sheik or whatever is, in the desert, and he's like camps for the night, and the camel, like, pops his nose under the tent and says, "Oh, please, sir, it's so cold out here. Can I just put my nose under the tent?" And he's like, "Well, I don't really want it, but, I guess so, and then, a little while later, he's like, oh, can't I just have my head under the tent? And, next thing you know, like the entire camel is under the tent. Can't get the camel out from the tent, right? That's how it is, right? Like you now suddenly can't get the camel out. And that's how they are. Like they're in very quickly and you can't get them out. And that's kind of how it was. And so, and then they don't do anything. They end up having, less talent and trying to take credit. And, it was all of that.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of jealousy in there too. But
very jealous and passive aggressive and stealing money and, all of the things.
Yeah. I was heaing as you were talking, it's almost like a devaluing in a way too. Is that accurate? Because they see you as so much value.
Definitely devaluing and the passive aggressive stuff. And, to be honest with you, I try not to even remember most of it because I try not to live there anymore. But that's good. You've moved on in healing, and I appreciate you sharing your story too in that, because I'm sure it always is a process to get out of a scenario like this. And it's the hard work. But again, at the end, you're like, oh God, yeah, it was worth it. Oh Lord. Because what's your life like now without this pull and this energy suck? Oh yeah. It's so much better. So much better. And I wish everybody well. I just wish them well, like over there.
Over there. As long as you're not in my field, I wish you well. Oh, that's hilarious. Goodness. So going through this process, and you have a lot of courses, and I think everybody that is in a scenario like this needs to sign up for it. Because, from what I've seen, and even in my experiences too, with business partners, and I guess it's really all business partners, because it was in the church setting for me, and it was also in business, was that I didn't realize for a long time at the beginning that I was in this relationship with a narcissist. Because there was always these little good things that I could find about them, or especially in the church realm or the business. It was a service industry, a security industry. And I was seeing it's like, oh, they really want to help people. I can see their heart. I can see the core of them, that they really want to just help everybody else that's out there. But then as I started to look through things and realize that I needed to get out of this, you're right. It was like towards the end of going through removing myself into being completely out of that scenario is when I would look back and I was like, oh, the whole reason why they did this was really just to bring attention to themselves anyways. The whole reason where I thought they wanted to help people was really them just bringing more attention to themselves. And that seemed like a tactic. Is that true?
Well, especially covert narcissists, and covert narcissists are definitely drawn more to being like pastors and politicians and people like that. Because then they can look like they're the good people, the kind people, and that's what I was dealing with in my business situation. And we have a family member, my husband and I, who's a covert as well. And, everybody thinks they're so wonderful. And the family member that we have to deal with, like, as soon as somebody is sick, like the family member rushes right to the person's side and it just is like the first one that shows up. And it's just so transparent, because then everybody thinks that this person is absolutely wonderful, but it's really so that they can get the attention for being the first one who shows up. They actually use other people's sicknesses and things as an opportunity to get attention for themselves, which is,
Yeah, it's twisted, very twisted.
Yeah.
Where's the point in the getting out to where things start to get easier? Because it's a lot of hard work. I get that. I've been through it with several business partners now. And so where do you feel that there is because I can't look back because I didn't have the benefit of your knowledge, in that, in what you teach. But when I look back, it's like, where did I actually finally feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel? Because it can seem hopeless for a long time. At least it seemed like that way for me. And I didn't realize that there was light at the end of the tunnel while I was going through it. Is that even possible while you're going through it to see that light?
I mean, I think, the light almost comes like when you don't even expect it. I recently had heard that this former business person that I knew had reached out to a third party, somebody who's kind of tangentially related to people that I know. So still trying to poke her way into my world. I've kind of put up very strong boundaries as much as possible, but I had heard through the grapevine that this person had just, tried to reach out. And when I had heard that, my first thought was, really? And then I thought, oh, so pathetic. And I just honestly, I felt nothing other than it's just so sad. And then I felt nothing. And the fact that I felt nothing to me was like, wow, I really moved on.
That's got to be huge.
Yeah.
That's got to drive the narcissist insane too, if they know that.
Well, I don't know what she knows or doesn't know. And the fact that I don't even care, I actually don't even care.
Oh, sure. I'm thinking of those individuals who might still be in that relationship to where it's like, you know what? No more. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. And when they go on their tirades, or if it's a tirade or they're gaslighting, and then it sounds like it could be a strategy for somebody in a narcissistic relationship to where they just let it roll off their shoulders and don't even engage. Or they say, whatever, or I don't care. And then just kind of walk away. That's got to drive them nuts.
Well, it does 100%. And this is what I say to people is like, if you can like basically wipe them from the CPU of your life, going back to your language.
Oh, thanks.
You can go in there and where they never existed. That would be like the best, what was their name again? And absolutely have almost nothing about it. That's the true winning, honestly.
For sure. Can that happen while you're still in the relationship?
I mean, I guess you'd have to define what is in the relationship. What does that mean?
Yeah. Married, still in the business partnership, still connected to them at some point. No, you got to be, still married? No. But if you still in a business relationship, probably not. But, if you're related to them, like maybe it's an extended family member, you might be able to have strong enough boundaries where you can, figure out a way to coexist by seeing them at certain functions and be able to figure it out. But still married, definitely not. What's the biggest way that you help people? Because I don't know if we got into that before, because I see your heart, because for me, from what I observe of you in our conversations, and you mentioned your authenticity, it's almost as if you went through this junk in your life, and I share that perspective too, to where you don't want to see, or at least try to minimize as many people who go through it out there, out in the world, or at least if they're going through it, try to help them out of it. What really, really drives you to just reach out to everybody and be like, hey, there's hope.
Yeah, that's what drives me. Honestly, I feel like I'm on a personal mission. It's like my crusade. I feel like like everything in my life has happened. Like all of my law practice, my negotiation skills, everything that I gained as a lawyer, and then dealing with narcissists in my own life, all of it happened and came together for a reason. And then I've been given the gifts that I've been given as far as my power to communicate and you know, all of that, I think all came together for a reason. I think that, you know, I know that I've helped a lot of people, and I think that that's why I'm on the planet right now, is that I'm supposed to be doing this.
I love it. I've really been trying to tap into the human side of you today, because I see you, you know, I follow you just like you follow me, and everything's always like, I love your demeanor on your content, because you are just like so matter of fact and cut and dry. It's like, this is who these people are, and you've got to wake up, and this is how you get out of the situation. Don't worry, there's hope. And I mean, it's just so incredible the way that you come across so confident. You're right. Your ability to communicate is amazing. But I see you and I'm like, there's a soft side to you too. And that's really the reason that I see that you're doing this, and it's amazing. I'm going to encourage you. I mean, we're friends at this point. Let that show in what you do, because it's incredible. You know, it's because everyone who's listening, it's like, you've got to follow Rebecca, because one, she's going to help you get out of the bad situation. Well, first, you'll help them recognize that they're in a bad situation, right? That's the first part. But then you'll also help them get out of that bad situation. But the place you come from is just so pure and clean. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Well, I mean, I think the people who follow me, you know, who are my regular people, they've heard all of these stories before. They do know. Yeah. Yeah.
If they find you on Instagram, which is pretty much where I see all of your content, you know, for the most part, it's just like, man, you're spitting truth fire all over the place. You know, it's incredible. I love it.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So, leaving people with this, please. If they feel that they're in a bad relationship, one, we've already established that they're not crazy, right? Because they've been gaslit to the point to where they're made to think that way, but it's okay, you're not crazy. After they recognize that, what's the first step for them to actually make a change?
Well, definitely create a plan. The podcast, not my YouTube videos, but the podcast interview that I just published this past Monday was actually an interview that I did with one of my former clients, Lorraine Carlone. She's not somebody famous. She doesn't have like millions of followers. She's just a former client who was willing to tell her story. She was married to a malignant, crazy narcissist, and she's willing to tell her story, listen to her story. She actually tried to leave once without a plan and had to go back, and he made her life a living hell. Don't make that mistake. Really, you have to create a plan. So I do encourage people, once you have figured it out, you know, that's why I created the SLAY program. I have SLAY for Divorce. I have SLAY for Business. In my SLAY for Divorce program, I actually walk you through how to create strategy, how to create leverage. But in the strategy section, I actually lay it out step by step, how to create a plan, all the things you need to do before you leave, if you are going to leave. So have a plan. So, you know, I do encourage you, if that is where you are in the process, have a plan before you decide to just leave. Don't just leave. You know, if you are in an abusive situation and you do need to get out right away, then, you know, go to a shelter or something like that. You know, get yourself to a place where you will be safe. But if you're not in a situation like that, then have a plan. I
love it. Everyone can follow Rebecca at Rebecca Zung on Instagram, and your YouTube channel, just search Rebecca Zung. And there, all of your stuff will come up. It's beautiful. And to get your programs, what's the website everyone can go to?
slayyournegotiation.com, or you can go to Rebecca Zung. I do have a free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet that people can grab if they would like. It's a free ebook, and they can just go to winmynegotiation.com and grab that. It's a really easy URL to remember, just winmynegotiation.com.
That's awesome. I'm going to head out there too. I just want to look at it because I'm sure it would have helped me in my scenario years ago too. Yes.
Well, awesome.
That's awesome. Rebecca, you're amazing. Thanks for being a good friend, an amazing guest, and just an awesome human for helping so many people.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.